Hi guys, it's Amber again from the Shropshire Dormouse group, and to bring you another little insight into what we do, we thought we'd go through some of the kit we bring along with us to all of our checks. So one of the first things is a really good bag. So we like ones that have lots of pockets, lots of different compartments. As you can see, there's quite a lot of different things. Some of them are small, some of them are big. So a really nice bag with lots of pockets. You can see it's got one at the back here. Ideally waterproof is really good. Some people might take up rucksacks. I personally prefer these over-the-shoulder bags as it's much easier to access things as you're going. So you can just reach in and grab out what you need. But it's slightly personal preference. So that's one of the most important things, somewhere to store your kit. Then to start with, your preparation equipment. So first aid kit, really important, especially if you're working with volunteers like us and you're in remote sites. It's really important to have a first aid kit with you. Ideally you'd have someone that's first aid trained as well, so you can administer that, and to go with this, your risk assessment of the site. Clipboard as well. You can see here we have weatherwriters, and although we don't usually do checks in the rain, it's quite often we can get caught out midway through a check, so this can be really useful. So if it does start raining, you can put all your documents inside and keep them safe. In here you'll want things like your record sheets, obviously, pens, and you also might want a map of the site and occasionally other resources to help you. For example, you might want nut identification guides, or we sometimes have pictures of dormouse genitals, you know. Then onto the check itself. First really important piece of kit, all dormouses should have one, is a duster. You can see these are just regular dusters. They're quite a thin material so that you can get them in behind the box and then stuff the hole with as much of it as you need. So these aren't expensive to buy, and they've got a pack of them. You want a few in a box so you can give them out to volunteers you're taking with you. And you'll also note that we have a nice bright colour. This really helps to stop us leaving them behind. So it's really important that you take these with you. We would count them out and count them back in at every check. So those are very important. Next, as you know from our last video, if you find a box that's got something in, you then need to check it. To check them, you need one of these big bags. Now these are pretty large in size and clear, as you can see. They're strong plastic, and you need that so you can get the entire box inside your bag and check it. Ideally, you want more than one of these. We would suggest about 4, so we've got about 4 in this kit. And this is because if you find a box and an animal jumps out straight away, you then so put the duster back in the back, put the lid back on, and you move the box to another bag to check in case there's any other animals inside. And you can keep doing this, so you only have one animal to work with at a time, which makes it much easier to process. If you find a particularly big litter with lots of juveniles, for example, you might want some of these cotton bags, and you can put them in there just to keep them calm, keep them warm and safe whilst you're processing some of the others. So these are quite a useful thing to have. We also have these very basic Ziploc bags. These are clear and fairly light, and these we use for weighing animals. So you can just unzip them, pop your dormouse in there, zip it up most of the way, and they should have enough air in there to be fine. They're very small animals, and then you weigh them using your scales. Now, you mustn't forget to subtract the weight of the bag itself. Even though these are really light, it will make a difference. So you need to know the weight of each bag you're using for weighing, to subtract the weight from the weight of your dormouse. And then that brings me on to the scales. You can see these come in a little case. Now this is the most expensive piece of kit here. So it's not hugely expensive. I think they cost about £30, but it's the most important as well. So you can see these are just a spring scale. You clip your bag on with your dormouse in there, and it will drop down to tell you your weight. These are made by Bicheno. It's a very well-known scale maker. And we'd suggest getting a 50-gram scale. Most of the time you can probably use a 30-gram scale and be fine for dormice, but occasionally you might get one that really fattens up well for hibernation, or you might have a yellowneck mouse that's particularly heavy and want a slightly heavier scale to get an accurate weight. So that's very important to look after. So that's everything you need for the check itself. There's a few extra things we would take out for maintenance reasons. So to start off with, some pens, so some permanent markers. These we would use to write the numbers on the boxes, and as you can imagine, as they're out in the elements all of the time, all the year round, the numbers start to wash away and you might want to reapply them as you start to notice them going. And then we also have some of the large wire and the small wire. So the larger wire is used to actually attach the boxes to the tree, and the smaller wire is used for the catches. And these are important. Sometimes they'll just start to degrade over time, or you might find that it's become stuck and you actually have to cut the wire to get the box off the tree and you need some more to replace it. So really good to have these with you. The small wire in particular is very important, as if a lid doesn't have wire, it's possible for squirrels to actually open it and get into the box. To go alongside that, some wire cutters or side cuts. Again, like I said, occasionally you'll find wire actually gets stuck, so these can also be useful to get the box off the tree. So very important to have them, try and keep them nice and sharp. And I talked about this in my last video, spatula. So any old spatula will do. You might have an old one in your kitchen somewhere. This is an ancient one, I think. So this is really helpful for clearing out your boxes. Just allows you to get in under the nest and bring all the material out really easily, especially if sometimes stuff gets stuck to the side or is a bit slimy or wet. It's not really nice to put your hand in there. So really good. Generally we clear out boxes over the winter when we know there's some dormouse present. Occasionally if we find a really messy or horrible nest, we might want to take it out as well. But make sure there's no animals present when you're doing this. So that is all of our usual kit that we would take out with us. But at the moment we have a few extras. So due to coronavirus, we've been taking masks with us. So if you're working in close proximity with perhaps a volunteer, if you're trying to do a check and you can't help but get close, you aren't to be wearing a mask. But also when we are checking live animals, following guidance from the People's Trust for Endangered Species, there's a slight risk that you could transmit to the mammals. So in order to minimise that risk, use a mask when handling live animals. And the same, use gloves as well. So for processing any live animals we find at the moment, we are wearing gloves. And then obviously extra precaution for mostly us, antibacterial hand gel, just so you can have it at the start and end of check, be extra safe. So these are really important things to bring with us. That's all the kit. Another thing to say is that at the moment, as another precaution against coronavirus, we are only taking out very limited numbers of people, so usually a licensed person and one other to help. We're not taking out our trainees as we have been before. We want to get back to this as soon as possible, but we also want to make sure it's safe before we do that. As a final note, I'd just like to say, although everyone can just easily get hold of all this kit, if you do find dormouse in a nest box that you're checking and you don't have a licensed person with you, as soon as you find a dormouse, you have to have a licensed person with you. So you have to stop checking and make sure you contact someone, say Shropshire Dormouse Group, for example. So we'd recommend you have that contact ready before you start checking. And I think that's it. Thank you. Bye.